Hey there, and welcome to my craft room. My name's Julianne Richards, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in southern Tasmania. Thanks for joining me, and thank you for everyone who purchased my August 2021 product-based class featuring the Artistically inked bundle. I'm just going to check my volume on this video. I have made this video. This is my third attempt. Yep, the volume seems okay. First time the volume didn't pick up until 2/3 of the way through. And the second one, I lost the light, so the focus wouldn't work. So hopefully my son has set me up with some pretty sexy looking, forgive my phrases, overhead lights. So hopefully the shadows won't be too bad and I'll be able to get through 3 videos showing you the 3 cards in this class. I would normally put off recording these, but some of you will start getting your kits in the mail over the next couple of days, so I really wanted these videos for you. So here is the stamp set. The dies are around somewhere. I've got so much stuff on this desk I can hardly see, so let's see how we go anyway. So we'll start with this little card here. It's quite cute. It's got a stamped background with the sentiment and the pattern underneath some vellum. It's got the beautiful flowers and things on here, all stamped, and you probably can tell in this light, with this extra light, they have some wink of Stella on each of those flowers as well. So, and it also uses this beautiful metallic mesh ribbon that's behind. You can probably also see that sparkling in the lights as well. So anyway, let's get going before I lose the lights as well, although he told me that they may well topple over on top of me, so that would be another reason to start the video again, in which case I'd probably give up till next week. Okay, so normal size card base for me, unless you ever hear differently, my card base is always 5 1/4 by 5 3/4, scored in the middle. You then have a layer of the polished pink cardstock, which is 1/8 of an inch smaller. You then have another layer of basic white, which is another 1/8 of an inch smaller, and the same size as that last piece is some vellum, and it looks like that's dyed. I'm now having buffering issues. That seems okay. The volume, the focus is still having trouble. Okay, that seems okay. Apologies there. I thought I was losing my focus, which is what the trouble I had before with the lights. So it may not be the lights, it may be the internet, that everyone in the local area is using their internet at the same time. But anyway, we'll plow on and see whether I can get at least one video done. Okay, so what we actually need is the piece of Whisper White that's the sort of for the top. We'll put everything aside for the moment. You need this lovely sort of splodgy, inky colour stamps from the stamp set, and we're going to use that one. You need a spare piece of cardstock for stamping off, because we're going to stamp off once. You can see there I've had several attempts at stamping off today. And you need your ink, which is it's over here, which is the polished pink ink. Okay, so we're going to get our splodge. You're basically just going to stamp all over this little piece of cardstock with second generation or stamped off once polished pink. So it's just nice and subtle, nice and light. And but it doesn't matter if you overlap a wee bit, but don't overlap too much. And you will go over the edge a bit, so make sure you're stamping on a surface that you can clean off. You're not too worried about getting inky. Move your change your ink, your stamp around so it doesn't look too samey. Change the angles. Not that it's much of a problem with this one, it's quite varied. I'm going to come in on the edge there, just where I missed a bit, and over here as well. Okay, so that is our background there, nice and pink. This class is very pink. That's one thing you can definitely say. Okay, so I'll just get rid of my scrap there. I might need it again later, but there we are. So that's our polished pink background. Now, you have a choice with the next part. You can choose whether, and it's whether I can find the original card. So many cards. The sentiment for this one, forgive the crash, you've got a choice. There you see, you can see I've got two versions of the card now. You can do your sentiment underneath the vellum, in which case it looks a bit like this one here on my right, or you can do the sentiment on top of the vellum, which means, and it looks like the one on my left. The only downside, I suppose, this one's a lot paler, but it's lovely and subtle. The only problem, if you're going to do it on top of the vellum, make sure you give it time to dry before you put your finger over it, because on vellum the ink will take much longer to dry. So I'm going to do it underneath, because today, the way it's going, I don't want to tempt fate and end up with pink dye, with pink ink everywhere, which is probably what I would do, and not a good look. Okay, so I'm going to actually go for the darker colour, as I say, because it will pale out. So I'm actually going to do my thanks in Magenta Madness. So the three colours I'm using for this particular class, or we're using for this class, the polished pink, which you've already seen, the Magenta Madness, which I'm just about to use, and the green is Mint Macaron. So I'm just going to pop the sentiment on the cardstock towards the top right hand of the inked up panel that we've just created. So you can see there, it sort of stands out quite nicely on that particular background. What we're going to do then is bring in our vellum, and as I say, the vellum is cut, if I've done my job properly, the vellum is cut to exactly the same size as that one. Vellum is tricky sometimes to attach to cardstock. It's obviously very, very smooth, and some adhesives have problems and some adhesives show through, so you have to be careful what you choose. I'm going to use double-sided tape because you can bring it right up to the edge and you won't get any curling. You can use glue, and my trick with the glue, if I'm using glue, is to pop it onto a sponge and actually sponge it all over the surface, right up to the edges and all the way around. And that way it goes, because it dries clear, our glue, you don't see drops of glue through the vellum. Obviously it's a sort of translucent material, and if you use the wrong adhesive, sometimes you will see all the way through. You'll see splodges of glue or whatever you've used. But with the clear double-sided tape or snail adhesive, you shouldn't see very much at all. And I've stuck right to the edge, so there's not much to see here. Okay, so just lining that up with the edges of our cardstock, and it fits pretty much perfectly if I've done my job right. So there we are. So that's our top layer there. What we're going to do now is grab some glue. This time we will use glue, and attach this one to our polished pink layer. Make sure I'm using the right side. And again, you're going to have just a very small border of the polished pink all the way around. Okay. Now we're going to attach our ribbon. So we've got our beautiful piece of this, the mesh here. I'm going to attach it probably in the bottom third of our card, so about that sort of level there. Pops again with some double-sided tape. Now you should have enough mesh ribbon to go all around the top, or the front of the card, and loop around to the back. So if you pop some double-sided tape on the back, bring in your mesh, sort of position it where you want. Sort of, it's going to come in behind our lovely flowers. So sort of, as I say, bottom third, curl it around so it sticks to that on the double-sided tape on the back. And attach it down. So it just needs to be attached. It doesn't need to we're going to be gluing this whole layer down. So as long as it doesn't move, it'll get captured with the rest of the ink. the rest of the glue when we glue everything down, which we will now. Okay, so what we're going to do is bring that layer onto our card base. So just let's continue the job with our glue. We started with our double-sided tape, and again a very small border of the white around the pink. Okay, there we are. Okay, it's pretty. It's pretty on its own, don't you think? Yeah, it's quite nice. Okay, so next step. I'm trying to find desperately where I've popped my, yes, there it is. Okay, so we're going to stamp our beautiful flowers next. So you've got another piece of Whisper White or Basic White in your card kit, which should be roughly that size. It might be a little bit smaller. And we're going to stamp our beautiful flowers, our artistic flowers in those. So what you're going to need is, in the powdered pink, just this beautiful big bloom here. Just the one of them. Okay, a bit close to the edge there. So just one of those. Then you'll need two. We're going to bring in the darker pink now, the Magenta Madness. If we can find it, it's here somewhere. I know it is. Here it is over there. How did you get over there? Oh, forgive the crash. Magenta Madness. Actually, that light makes that look quite orange. It's not quite that orange, that pink, but it does look a bit orange in that. So we need two of these in the Magenta Madness. Okay. And then we've got a little bud here. And we want three of these also in Magenta Madness. Okay. And the leaves. Now, in the set, there is a double leaf and a single leaf. And again, we're going to use, as I mentioned, we're going to use the mint macaron. So I'm going to do sort of a combination of full strength and stamped off. So I want one of these leaves in full strength and one stamped off. So it's quite pale, you can see there. And then with the single leaf, we're going to do a full strength, a half strength straight away, and then another full strength. Okay, so there's all the images we need for this particular card. Now, at this stage, you might choose to bring in your Wink of Stella and give those all a bit of bling. So you can do that. I won't do it at this stage because I'd like to get moved on to my second video, since it's taken me this far to get this far. So this long to get this far. So bring your Wink of Stella in at this stage and bling them up if that's what you'd like to do. So take those away with your dies or fussy cut. It's actually not too bad. This one's a bit fussy to fussy cut, but the others are quite good shapes. You could probably cut them pretty easily. Get the dies and cut those out. And thankfully, given the time, I have done those already. Okay, so let's bring our card base back. So because we're actually sticking on vellum, vellum is shiny and smooth. So as I've mentioned, a lot of adhesives have trouble. So what I'm going to do is use my Stamp and Seal, because it's like instant and it's pretty like gluey. It doesn't sort of take any prisoners as far as that's concerned. So this is our lovely big blossom. So I'm going to pop that over here towards the left-hand side, sort of about the level of our mesh. There we are. Okay. So then I'm going to bring in one of our little medium-size blooms and just sort of pop him off to the bottom of that, just off there. Okay. Then our little tiny buds, just with a little bit of snail on the back of them, just nestle one there. And one up in here. Yeah. And wait till you see the finished item and before you start popping your own in, because then you'll sort of know where I'm heading. It's a little bit hard to know where I'm heading while you're sort of watching sort of what seems random, because I'm actually looking at my final example. And then this other large bloom is going to sit on top. I'm going to pop that on a couple of dimensionals just for a bit of interest. Just there, just a couple will do. I'm going to bring him in, sort of overlapping the large bloom and the medium one, just like that. And that's all very pretty, isn't it? Very, very pink. But as you guys know, I think the green of a leaf brings a design alive. So I'm going to bring in these leaves. So I've got the half strength double leaf there. So again, a bit of snail. Bring him in up under there. Our other full double leaf. Pop in there. Okay, and our single leaves. Pop one in up here. And I think, as I said, I think that adding those leaves really lifts the design to something a little bit more special. There we are. Okay, so that's quite sweet. I quite like that. Once you've got that green in there, it really lifts it and makes it that little bit more, just adds that little bit more interest to it. You now have some embellishments. Some of you have got rhinestones and some of you have got the sequins, the self-adhesive sequins. Unfortunately, with some supply delays we've got at the moment with our distribution centre, I didn't have enough of the sequins to give them to everyone. So some of you have probably got my favourite fallback and got the rhinestones, but I think, to be honest, now I've seen both, I think the rhinestones actually stand out nicer. So I can actually prefer the rhinestones. So if you've got those, I think you're very fortunate. Okay, so there, and nothing's crash banged or fallen on me, so I'm quite happy about that. There is card number 1 of this month's class. So as I say, you can add some stellar. I'll bring this one back in. I think this one's been stellared. Yep, you can see there probably glinting in I've got to say something for this artificial light. It definitely brings out the bling quite well. So that's what happens when you add the stellar. You can see that there. Or just the plain one there, which I probably will stellar up by the time I finish tonight. Okay, so that's card number 1. Just let me tidy up a little bit and I will be back with card number 2.